Hi guys, CriticasterQ here, and today I want to talk about the 6-star series in NGS, the Rokz Weapon Series. There's a whole bunch of reasons of why you would want this. First off, it's the best 6-star for bossing, but the more important thing is that it's a component for a 7-star later on down the road called Khazar. Um, Unfortunately, this is the main reason for this weapon. You don't really want to upgrade it too hard because when you do use it as a component for this Khazar weapon, nothing goes along to it. So none of the augments, none of the enhancement, none of the potential, nothing transfers into the 7-star. It'll just be a clean 7-star. But this should hold you over until you can finally get that 7-star because it does take quite a few materials to make the Khazar series. But to get back on track with the Rokz Weapon Series, it actually has 3 different potentials. This can be determined by the name of the weapon. So the thing in the middle here, Rough Wind, for the sword, this is the Revolutionary unit potential, where you get up to 24% potency and also 20% PP recovery when you take damage, with a cooldown of 10 seconds. So basically, when you take damage and don't die, say you have like 200 photon power as your max. So 20% of that back would be an instant 40 photon power when you take a hit, be it 1 damage or, 1,000 damage. Then for the next one is the 6CMs section, which comes with the Desperation unit potential. At its max, its potency is 18%, and then a critical hit rate of plus 30% when your photon power is below 50%. This is actually the most powerful or highest average damage when you are, activating this critical hit rate. But when this critical hit rate is not active, it is actually the worst 6-star out of the bunch. But then for the last one, we have the Curva type, which comes with the Staccato unit potential. So at its max, it is 23% potency, and then it comes with the offensive PP recovery plus 20% for 5 seconds when landing an attack. Landing an attack again will extend the duration with the 10-second cooldown. So that's it for the potentials of these. But if you want to actually switch a potential, like say on the spear, instead of the staccato unit, you wanted the revolutionary unit, like on the sword, for instance. So what you would do is you would take the sword as like the main weapon and have the spear be the side weapon or like the extra weapon going into it. So that way you can have the revolutionary unit potential be the one used instead of the staccato unit here. But then I want to move on to the damage comparisons of these potentials and to some of the other 6-stars and 7-stars. This is a damage sheet done by Ryatsu and kind of modified for 6 and 7 stars by Icy Pie here. So here are the Rokz weapons here with their damage types, with the different fixes. We're just going to look at the preset zeros here for now. But, so this is the Rokz on hit or the revolutionary potential, like on the sword. The regen is the one that was on the spear or the staccato unit, and then the crit is the desperation. So let's kind of like go through this one by one. So the on hit one or the revolutionary is the best on average, and it's like you don't have to do anything special for it. It's just like just slightly more damage than the rest of the 6-stars against bosses, that is. But then like the regen one is kind of a little bit behind, but pretty close. And then you can see here there's 2 crit ones. The crit without a plus means like you have over the 50% photon power that it needs to actually activate that crit hit rate. So when you actually have it active though, it's actually the best out of the 6-star weapons here for bossing. The reason I keep saying bossing is because the Sectional potential has extra damage against, regular mobs outside of bosses. So that's that activation here, which is at 182 or almost 183 average damage. And then kind of like moving on, just to show down here, the Khazar weapon, which the Rokz weapons kind of transform into later on if you put the materials for it. You can see here that the damage is just way leagues ahead of what these Rokz can do. So you definitely want to move on to the Khazar at that point. But like I said before, just make sure that you're not, kind of clinging on to Rokz with super heavy augments or fixes, because those do not transfer into these Khazars. You kind of want like a clean Rokz when you make this thing. With all the numbers out of the way now, though, kind of wanted to finally talk about where you actually obtain these weapons. They're all actually different from one another for the most part. Kind of like some general rules about it is you can get them from bosses that are 51 and above in level in Kavaris. You can get them from the urgent quests, and you can also get it from the Drill Darkfall's Interception rank 2. But the thing with the bosses and the urgent quests is they actually come from different ones, which I'll kind of say the differences here. So just moving with like in order with the weapons. First off, we have the sword. This is dropped by Frostal Sword. Imagine that. But for the urgent quest here, it just says it generically, but there's actually specific urgent quests it drops from. So with the Frostal, it drops from Crocodilus Vera. For the Darkfall's rank 2 interception, it just drops all of the Rokz weapons, so no worry about, if it can drop there or not. So then we move on to the wire. This is dropped by Marmoths, 51 and above. And then for the urgent quest, it is Am's Vera. And then for the spear is the Malacride, one of the birds. Just make sure to make the distinction of Malacride versus Malacroid, because those are two different bosses. And then for the urgent quest, it is Crocodilus Vera. And then after that, we have the daggers. This is dropped by the Ice Bancer. Once again, there's like a Bancer and a Banshee, so make sure you kind of make that difference with the bosses. And then for the urgent quest, it is Crocodilus Vera. And then for the Saber, it is dropped from Crocodilus. But for the urgent quest, it's actually dropped by Am's Vera. You cannot get the Saber in the Crocodilus Vera UQ, so make sure you make that distinction. And then with Knuckles, it is Am's Kavaris, so like the regular boss, but it also drops from the Am's Vera urgent quest as well. And then with the Katana, this is dropped by the Pangolin. For the urgent quest, it drops in Am's Vera as well. And then for the Soaring Blades, this is also dropped by Am's Kavaris, just like the Knuckles, but for the urgent quest, it is actually Crocodilus Vera. And then moving on to the ranged weapons, we have the rifle, which drops by the Ice Banshee, and then for the urgent quest, it is Crocodilus Vera. And then for the launcher, this also drops by Crocodilus, just like the Saber does, but this one also drops in the Crocodilus UQ, unlike the Saber. And then we have the machine guns. This is dropped by the Ice Bancer, just like the daggers. But for the urgent quest, I believe it's supposed to be Am's Vera, but I've been getting like some accounts kind of told by the Uber Elite, which is a big streamer, and just like others in the community, that there might be a bug or something where this is not dropping in urgent quests at all. So just be aware of that. But then there is the bow, which drops by the Snork or the flying thing, and this drops in the Am's Vera UQ. And then finally we have the technique weapons, which first off with this we have Rod, which drops by the Raylin boss, kind of like the Summoner or Waker kind of looking boss. But then for the urgent quest, it is Crocodilus Vera. And then for Talis, it drops by the Knigse Yeti, and it drops in the Am's Vera UQ. And then for Wand, just like Sword, drops from the Frostal Sword boss, but then drops in the Am's Vera urgent quest. And then for the final weapon here, we have the Jet Boots, which drops by the Malacroid boss or the other bird boss, and drops in the Crocodilus Vera UQ. So that's it for the weapons. Just keep in mind with these 51 plus bosses, they can actually be any version of these bosses. So in the rank 2 combat areas, they can be the veterans, they can be the ancients, they can even be the gigantics, or even in the purple battle dia. The only exception is not in the yellow battle dia. Hopefully this helps you guys out with all of the information about the Rokz Weapon Series. Just one final note on these things is their rarity. From what I've seen, they are quite rare, but not as rare as, say, the Rokz Weapon Series, if you're familiar with that, but it will take quite some time. If you are having issues, you can actually still purchase them off the player market or the personal shop. if you want to do that instead. Thank you guys for watching this video though, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.